So here, if I want to talk about continuing my threads that are starting from beginning about talking about transcription, splicing, coupling, or RNA helicases, I will finish with one slide that I want people to remember. That is, our work clearly demonstrates evolution work because in U1 situation, you require a helicase to kick it out. In U2 situation, U2 to join this, you have to have another helicase to read out. So indeed, molecular evolution work. That's my bottom line. Take-home message. Using one slide. Okay? Now, so far, you have heard I talk about some very common and easy principle. These are not rocket science. This, in fact, is more like psychology. More have to do with psychology, human psychology. Now, some time ago, I was trying to submit a paper to Nature. In my career, I submit 6 times, 6 manuscripts to Nature, and so far my batting average is 0. Okay, although 1 succeeded in Science, so I was not doing too bad. So you know, in Nature, if everybody read Nature article, you know the first 250 words are, in boldface, right? What I cut off here, the boldface. And then Nature tell you that these 250 words needs to be introduction, needs to be summary, needs to be importance. Everything has to be in 250 words. It's very, very, very hard to write. So Nature, when I was writing the Nature manuscript, I was searching for the author, instruction to author. I came across a document in Nature teaching people how to write these 250 words. When I look at these 250 words, it dawned on me the communication style they're talking about is exactly the same as I have been preaching for years and years. Let me show you. In this here, they dissect the 250 words. They say, okay, this you can read, and it's actually important to read. Okay, in the first in 1 or 2 sentences, provides a basic introduction to the field comprehensible to a scientist in any discipline. Any. So you have to start up with broad picture, big picture first. And then they say that in the next 2 or 3 sentences, follow the first part. You should have more detailed background comprehensible to scientists in related disciplines. For example, in Dr. Holmes' lab, if he sending the paper to me, he's talking more to the specialists. First, second, and third sentences. And in the 4 sentences, he said, in 1 sentence summarizing the main result. Well, you must have all read about Science Nature article. Do you remember this? Always the sentences read like this. Here we show. Here we show. In 1 sentence. So I told my graduate students that if your result needs 5 sentences to finish, then don't send it to Nature because it doesn't work. Good science requires 1 sentence to hit the nail, and everybody kind of shatter it. So that's good science. Okay? If you require 15 sentences to explain your thing and then send it to BBRC or something that you don't know or somewhere. Okay? So so you start with big picture. Here we show, immediately concluded. So this is similar to what I have said in your introduction. You should tell people what are you going to hear is important. So they will stay with you for the next 30 minutes. Now then, of course, then you go on with this 250 words, talk about how you do it, what kind of result you said. Then the important thing is at the very end. In the very end, 2 or 3 sentences, when you are coming out, finishing these 250 words, it's a 2 to 3 sentences explaining how the main result adds to the previous knowledge. Perspective. Remember I said perspective, right? And then you should follow by 1 to 2 sentences. Put the result in a general context, a big picture. And finally, in 2 or 3 sentences, provide a broader perspective comprehensible to scientists in any discipline. So you see here, the communication style they ask you to do is just like hourly glass. Starting with broad, narrow specialist. Here we show, explaining in more detail, narrow, what have we contributed to this field, a broader picture, and what is the impact. This is a good way of communication, to structure your seminar. If you're following this structure, you are not going to do too badly. All right, so now in your talk, you should avoid the following thing. Okay, many people love, especially some graduate students love to use jargons and acronyms. Okay, for example, we use PBS 101 transform into the cell. Graduate student will talk about it. The problem is that who knows what is BS 101? Is BS means that's bullshit? Who knows? So what you should be doing is say that we introduce the BSG into the, put it on plasma, put it into the cell, using plain language. In paper, you can write in the very jargon, that's fine. But in talk, you have to try to diminish, put it down to the lowest possible level. Okay, now here's one. That's an acronym. Acronym is putting many words in one word. Right? We use EMSA to examine the specific interaction. When I first returned to Taiwan and I heard graduate students talk about EMSA, I said, what is EMSA? I never heard about it. Okay, just like tell you a little personal story. I'm using the story things again. Right? One time I visited Shanghai National Academy of Science somewhere there, and I was invited to give a talk. And during the discussion with the Chinese scientists, and they keep talking about, the Chinese scientists, they actually talk about terminology in Chinese. And it was very hard to understand. So they keep saying, 非编码, 非编码. Oh, I try to suppress myself to ask the question, to avoid demonstrating I'm so ignorant. So I didn't want to ask the question. I sit there, I had perspiration going on, but I finally couldn't resist myself. I said, excuse me, could you please educate me what is 非编码? I go, 非编码? 你不懂啊? Non-coding 啊? Non-coding 啊? 非编码? Non-coding RNA, 非编码 RNA. That's jargon. Okay, so here, this is a better way to say that. Okay, so if you want to use EMSA, you can use common language. I don't want to read through it, but you say we want the protein RNA interaction. So we run it on the gel to see whether they stay together, something to that effect. Okay, use common language. Don't use very complicated language. Now here, come to the end of my talk. Gradually, I'm talking for a long time, and then you're still awake. That's great. Okay. Mannerism. Why I want to talk about mannerism? When you want to give an effective talk, you want to catch people's attention. Okay? So you don't want to just stare at your own computer and then sit there. That's a failure of communication. So number one, you should face the audience. How many times you see the speaker will be, I have seen that here. So today we're going to talk about these things. And then throughout the whole talk, he was staying there. Never even look at the audience. Not alienate the audience. You need to face the audience. Stand up. And the way I like to do it, I like to walk around because I feel that I can interact with you. So you fell asleep? Yes, I knew. Okay. Right. Second, keep an eye contact. You probably noticed that throughout the talk, I was looking at here, you, and I also looking at there, and also the last row. Fu Long did not fall asleep. Thank you very much. Okay. So I was interacting. Now, use the pointer effectively. Why do I have to mention this? Have you seen a speaker going and say, okay, today I'm going to talk about these things. Okay. Or some speaker was so nervous, they pressed this pointer and then forgot to release. That turned off the audience, and then all the audience get very scared. Okay. Now, let me tell you another personal story, a real story about pointer. When I was a postdoc, I went to Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory for a talk. for a meeting. And at the time, the conference, that was pre-PowerPoint era. Youngster had no idea what is the pre-PowerPoint era. That's the time you have to use slides. Next slide, please, click. Next slide, please, click, right? Or transparency, you put the transparency down. Now, in the meeting, you have 10 minutes to talk. Use transparency is a dumb idea. Okay? Now, and then we have a pointer, it's not this small. At the time, the technology was backward, the pointer is about this big. You have to kind of hold it with two hands, otherwise it begins to shake, right? So, the Cold Spring Harbor Auditorium has a screen way up. So in case that people don't want to use the electronic pointer, they prepare real pointer. The real pointer going from the floor all the way up close to the ceiling. So here we have a French speaker. Oh, I hate French speaker. I could not understand a thing they said in English. Whenever I had heard a French speaker, I always kind of close my eyes because I couldn't understand what they say. That was bad enough to have a French speaker. What is bad enough is that this guy decided that he wanted to use transparencies. Transparency means that you have a stack of transparency. Then you have to put it on one by one in a very organized way. And what if disaster happened? That would be terrible. And compound to that is that this guy refused to use the electronic pointer. So he said he wanted to use the real pointer. So you have to imagine a scenario. Here is a guy who has a stack of transparency. They have to move the projector here, to set it up. Then he will begin to talk, and nobody understands what he was talking about. And he has he hold one transparency right here and put it on. And this one, he was grabbing a pointer right here. And then we just cover our eyes. I said, please don't let that happen. Don't let it happen. And lo and behold, it happened. Midway through his talk, the transparency flappered down to the floor. And he tried to grab them, and then the pointer hit the first wall. And everybody closed their eyes and said, okay, no. So, is mannerism important? Important. You have to train yourself to do better. Because you don't want to freak out the audience, right? So, now here is another mannerism many people did not realize. Oftentimes, you will hear people, you went onto the podium, you give a talk, people ask you a question. Now here is something I observed, and you probably experienced that. So Dr. Hong raised his hand and then said, Dr. Chan, I want to ask you a question. And then he will begin to state his question. Yes, I understand. Yes, no problem. I cut him off. That's very impolite, number one. Number two is probably didn't quite understand what he was talking about. He probably was going to ask something else. You already cut him off. That's very impolite. What you should be doing is to listen carefully to people's questions. Then what you should do next is the following. You repeat and summarize. Dr. Hong asked the question, and I patiently listened to what he said. I said, that was a very good question. Thank you very much. So you are asking me about blah, 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 blah. I summarized what he asked. That's the communication. So he will understand, I really understand. Then probably he will say, oh no, this is what I'm asked. Then you communicate. And then followed by, you begin to answer the question. You should address the question to the entire audience. Dr. Hong had asked me a wonderful question, and I explained it to the audience. Have you seen speaker doing the following things? Dr. Hong asked me a question. I listened. I said, yeah, right, no. Just between two of us, and just keep talking about it. And they ignore the rest of the people. That's not good. Okay? And finally, if you can have a little bit of humor, that can be good. Okay, learning how to spice up your talk. Now here is a slide I use in international meeting. A real slide in international meeting, where I'm going to summarize everything I want to talk about into this slide. I say, okay, today I'm telling you a story about how we uncovered that there is a hydrophobic interaction between two important components in splicing. And this interaction has to be just right. When that is too big, it wouldn't work. When that's too small, it wouldn't work. It has to be just right. Just like the children's story about the Goldilocks and the three bears. So I call my hypothesis the Goldilocks and the three bears hypothesis. So the Western culture audience instantly understand what I'm talking about. Because this is a children's story. So a long time ago, there was a little girl called Goldilocks who has blonde hair. That's why she's called Goldilocks. And one day she went to the forest and get tired. She found a house, entered the house, and she found out there's three chairs. And one is very big chair, one is middle chair, one is little chair. And then she found there are three balls, and then one is big ball, middle ball, etc. And then she found out this is the right thing for her. That is too small, this is too big. Okay? So that's the children's story. And then they instantly go. Okay? But you have to be careful. You have to be able to deliver. Okay? Now here's another example. One time my co-star went to the Kyoto meeting, and then she's going to talk about a very nice work that he has done, and then so it's entitled Capturing Something in Action. So I coached him, and I said, maybe you want to come up at the very beginning to attract people's attention this way. Design something that people want to listen. I said, okay, today I'm going to tell you a story that has been going on in our laboratory for the past 10 years because the problem was very difficult. We are working on an RNA helicase that touch the spliceosome in transition. It touch and go. So it was very hard to understand how this protein work. So we have developed a very ingenious way of capturing PRP28, how does it work to the spliceosome, and figure out how does it work. Okay, so this work is pretty much representing something like this. Catch me if you can. As you can see here, this is who's this guy? Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio. This is a very interesting movie. He's a kind of a professional cheater, right? Professional cheater, and then he cheat on everything. And then this is Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is FBI agent, try to catch you. This is a very interesting movie, very, very interesting. I said, I want to tell you, just like the Tom Hanks tried to catch this guy, and then over the year we try and try, he also tried and tried, couldn't catch it, but finally we caught him. Okay, so that's another way to kind of catch people's attention. And then here's another one that my graduate student formerly designed. He said, okay, I was working on so hard on a particular project. I tried this way and that way and that way, and then nothing worked. It was just like this, okay? Screaming, okay? All right, so let me close by saying that the good talk pathway is something of you as a speaker to face an uncertain audience that you must figure out who they are first. Okay? And then you are the one who do all the heavy lifting to prepare. Don't blame on the audience. Now you have to have a good content, good science in order to give a good talk, obviously. And then you have to have a good perspective. It is useful to think about your work in terms of broad perspective. How does that fit into the history of the field? Think about it, because otherwise you're not going to give a nice talk. It will be very dry, okay? And then with good perspective, you make good choices. Don't try to cover everything under the sun. Pick important data. You don't have to show everything. Remember that you don't have to show everything. People can always come to you to talk about it, to discuss it later, okay? Now, then you have to have good design. With good design and practice, then you will be able to give a good talk. But before I leave you, I want to show you one slide. One time I read science. I don't know you read this kind of thing. Sometimes I watch them, okay? So there was an interview of a famous Princeton molecular biologist, okay? Her name, kind of escaped my mind, but she was very well known. She studied quorum sensing, bacterial quorum sensing. When a lot of bacteria come together, they release chemical signal. And she was very, very well known. And then she is also well known to be a great speaker. And as the Americans said, a great speaker bring down the house. They use this word, bring down the house. She is very good. So she got interviewed by science asking her what's her secret sauce. How does she do it? What kind of rules she what kind of model or method that she developed? And this is what she said. And this was long after I have developed my talk. Many years later, I read this. This is #1. Oh, Bonnie, that's her name, Bonnie Bassler. Okay, stick to big picture. She advised you stick to picture. Okay, so you want the audience to be able to get it. Don't try to get into tiny little details a lot. She said, on slides, use few words and make one point. That was exactly the same as I have been talking about years after year. So I think there's a kind of universal conservation right there. And we love universal conservation, right? So that means that it's probably true. And then she said, tell stories. Tell stories. Okay? These are detective stories with many mysteries that all point to the same thing. In fact, every science project is the detective story. You can make it very interesting. Use your creativity. And she said that don't strive to be the smartest person in the room. That means that when people ask you a question, you don't try to bring the person down. Respectfully respond to the person. Try not to be the smartest guy in the room. You will be hated, okay, in the long run. With that, I will close my talk, and I will be very happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.